Cue me in, cue me in, cue me
All
in.
right, three, two, one, begin.
Are we live? Welcome back to Two Birds, One Mic, the podcast where we probably put up an episode once every 5 months and don't talk about anything useful with your abominable host, Gotham Yegapan and Mylan, the fuck up champ. We're back, baby.
No, no, not like that. That's actually such a good. You sound like a radio broadcaster. We were looking at the last episode that we did, which was heartbreaks and prom dates when you came to DC, which was 3 months
That's such a
ago.
great name.
Yeah,
That's
I
such a great name.
mean,
They're fired for that, honestly.
man, that was I can't. I still think about the time when we went to the prom. We got turned up in there, and it was
I was
like,
little
wow, that
shit.
is a different time.
Yeah, man. I think, I don't know. How do you feel like your life has progressed since then?
It's a good question. I feel like you know, I can never answer that question because it's like, yeah, how do you change? Someone asked me that question earlier, and I told them like I can't tell you how I've changed, but I can tell you the people I've met and like what they've taught me, or like what
Mm,
each one introduced. Because and so when we think about like how we have changed over time, it's kind of hard to tell because it's like we were talking about this earlier. It's like how much of who you are is just a response to your environment, and your perceived change is just your environment changing, as opposed to like if I was in that exact same environment today, would I be actually different? But
right.
I would say, to get to your question, like since then, I can maybe just tell you some of the cool things I've experienced. I finished my first year. I went to Lightning in a Bottle 5-day festival. That was crazy in the desert. And then I had a few really therapeutic weeks back at home that were healing. And then I packed my bags. I got to England, and then I went to Italy. And then I was at the conference. I think that really was life changing. And then now I'm in France. And in 2 days, one day, I'm about to be at this silent meditation retreat. What about you?
Damn, so you haven't really done much, huh?
But
Um,
how has your mind changed? I can't answer that. There's just like things I've done, but I can't like. It's hard to know because okay, if we had a conversation right after one of those events, I would tell you all the things I learned, but I can't really tell you how much of that I've retained or like actually has stuck
mm,
in my day to day thinking. You know?
right. Yeah, it's I think a question I've been contemplating these last couple of days is how do you change and how does an experience actually change you? What does it even mean to change from experience? Like you said, you can go through an experience and have a million different things come out of it, but how do you actually integrate that into who you are? Do those experiences actually shape, morph, and change Gautam or Mylan? And how does your brain choose to hang on to some things rather than others?
Mm,
Why are some experiences more transformative than others? I don't know.
yeah. What about you? What would you say are some of the big milestone events? I know you've had a lot too.
Um, I finished a whole Little Caesars pizza in one sitting.
Hey,
Um,
hey.
that's about it, dog.
No,
That's
I
all I
mean,
got, man.
talk about your supplement.
Oh yeah. So yeah, I got a NIH supplement approved through my lab that will pretty much give me a couple publications through that and give me some mentorship and give me a position in my lab. I just today submitted a an abstract for a my first conference presentation, the
Congratulations.
AVCT. So that'll be cool. But other than that, I mean, to be honest, I mean, I think my life has been a slow down spiral the last few months. It's had its ups, it's had its good moments, but I think for the most part, it hasn't really been a positive upshift. And that's on me. That's my responsibility. That's not anybody else's or life. So I just don't think I've really been doing what I should be doing to better my life and taking opportunities, changing things, doing things in a different way, growing in the way I should. I've mostly just been prioritizing impulsivity and kind of ephemeral feelings of what is that called? I just been an Epicurean. I've just been hedonistic as shit the last few months, and that's been my guiding principle. So, not really much, man. To be honest, yeah, that's just to be real.
Yeah. I was actually having a conversation with a friend that we both had today about, he was explaining how his life has also been extremely hedonistic recently. And I think something that's interesting about like that concept of like, oh, everything I do is just for like my immediate pleasure, is that I think that's what, I mean, everybody to a certain extent lives like. I think some people just have lives that on the outside you can be like, hey, but I have this job and I have this house and these kids, but then I still do the same like debauchery that anyone else does. But then I also have this like external facing appearance that it's like, oh, but I have it together. And then that same behavior can be also replicated by someone who may not have that job and may not have those, whatever, all those other things. And then it would look completely different there. But I think like this like idea of like all I do is every meal I eat dessert, I eat my ice cream, and then it's like everything I do is just centered around like what makes me feel good in that moment, and
there's a real lack of discipline in our culture and in our society. I don't think discipline is really valued, maybe how it used to be, and it really is this sort of lifestyle that's kind of like the world is yours, and at every moment you should be seizing every opportunity all the time. I don't really feel like there's a strong message in our society nowadays that pushes sacrificing a pleasure now for something greater later. It's just sort of like, hey, you don't like your job, quit it. Hey, you don't like this relationship, there's a million other people out there in the sea. Hey, you can be fat and not have anybody tell you anything bad about it. Like, you can look however you want, act however you want, and you have a space at the table, which isn't necessarily wrong. But I think towards a lot of goals that are helpful is maybe not the best mindset to have towards things. I'm not saying that somebody should be shamed for being overweight. I'm not saying that somebody shouldn't quit a job that they don't like, but I'm also not saying that that should be the most immediate option that people take in every single situation. And I don't know if that's just go ahead and do that mindset should be championed over temperance and actually rationalizing and thinking through things and understanding, hey, why don't I like this? What aspects of this can I change to potentially like it? And really going through things before it's just like, go ahead and drop what you're doing.
And I think there's like a certain element of like morality that also is just like not like, something I've been thinking about recently is like, it feels like a bunch of things have happened in the past and our current ideologies are just like we've experienced that before and now we want to do the opposite. So it's like we may have experienced a high level of religious persecution in the past, so now we're like, we don't believe in God. It seems like everything is just kind of like this like trauma response to all the things that we have gone through in the past. So before,
it's a pendulum swinging from one to the other side.
And so it's like in the past we've had people like push their morals on us, and now we're like, you know what, it's all subjective, you can pick your own morals, there is no like objective good or bad, it's whatever you want. And and so it's like in that world, like, and that's something I kind of wanted to talk about, just like motivation. I think that's something that I'm like not motivated, but I am a motivated person, I would say, in many ways. But it's like, it is really hard to be consistent about being motivated. Like I can be motivated for 2 days, but then every third day I lose that motivation. And that's, even though that may look good for those 2 days, that's 33% of my life that's just gone. I throw away 1 day for every 2 days I'm motivated. And that happens on a consistent basis. Like, today I wasn't motivated. I know tomorrow I'll be motivated, and the day after probably. But then I know that third, fourth day I'll be like, I'm back to why am I doing any of this, And which is not to say that's a bad thing, which is, something I wanted to also talk about what you're saying, which is just like, you're talking about downward spiral, but it's like, what is that? Like, how do we know it's a downward spiral? Like what, like when you said that, why is it a downward spiral? Why not? Why can't it? Like, why is it that?
Well, I guess there's a couple of different ways you can go about looking at that. You can try to take a more objective route and really look at the different aspects of your life and ask yourself, are these improving? And so that's one way of going about it, right? So let's look at my professional life. It is improving, but in a lot of ways has also gotten messed up by my actions. Let's look at my emotional life. My emotions have been all over the place. And let's look at my mental health. My mental health has not been doing the best. Let's look at my relationships. My relationships are, for the most part, struggling, tenuous, and disconnected. Physical health. I have lost the consistency that I had in the gym for over a year and a half in the last couple months. Let's look at my room. My room is more of a mess than it's been in I don't know how long. Let's look at my diet. My diet is more messed up than it's been in I don't know how
All
long.
right, understood.
You know, like it's like
Yeah,
really
yeah,
any
yeah,
metric that
yeah.
I could pick, I'm just not doing well. So there's that. There's
I
that.
guess that
and
that
some more people.
that through that lens, it's I guess a little more clear cut.
Right. But there's also the other end of it where I feel like you can also move, which is the subjective metric, right? Which is how do I feel about my life? Do I feel better than I did back then? And that is where I feel like people tend to operate more often than not. And that's not even to say that it's wrong. I'm not sure if what your life actually looks like matters more than just how you feel about what your life looks like. And for me, I haven't felt too good about the way things have been going. You know, I'm not as proud and don't respect myself to the same extent that I did back in the day. And so how do I know it's downward spiral? I would say that's probably how. But beyond that, you know, what I was going to say is that I think that pattern that you have with motivation makes sense because motivation is like a feeling, and it's really hard to, when you're doing good, a lot of times what that feeling comes from is like a fuck up. And then you're like, all right, I'm back. And then you're kind of riding that wave, and then you're, okay, I feel good now. And then that motivating feeling is sort of gone. So you need to kind of fuck up again to kind of swing. You know, I've heard people describe this pattern as sort of like, I don't know if you've seen that like thing in physics where it's like just the ball kind of going down straight, and then there's the ball going down with like the dips, and that ball like ends up going faster because those dips actually like help its
velocity or whatever.
Fucking velocity, and so it seems like those are kind of an important part, weirdly enough, of moving forward in any domain. But I do believe that if we rely on motivation as sort of the driving factor, those things it fizzles out. It's just,
that's a really good point, actually. Yeah, like what motivation even is, like what that feeling is it for me at least, it comes from a place of like, I didn't do well today. Tomorrow I'm gonna kill it, and then that pushes you for a little bit, and then eventually runs out. Once you're doing good, it's not the motivation that keeps you moving forward. So then what is? So I guess that's a question then. So motivation helps you get off your ass when you've had a lazy day. But once you're already off your ass for multiple days, it's like, what? So you said you worked out for a year and a half. What kept you going 5 months in?
I think that what I hear people say is like, well, I have two thoughts about it. One, it seems like a lot of this, seems like individuals like you and I use a lot of like negative motivation, the trying to escape a feeling of guilt and shame that we have associated with ourselves. And so what motivation actually becomes in that moment isn't so much, hey, I want to do this. I think it's more of, hey, I don't want to feel this shitty. And I think that's why it's so
that's funny.
ephemeral, is because once you no longer feel that shitty, you're like, all right, I'm good. And then you need that feeling of shittiness again, and the wanting to escape that feeling of shittiness again to actually propel your actions forward. It seems like there needs to be something a little bit more sustainable, more based in hey, I'm being pulled forward by the good rather than trying to escape the bad. So that seems like one potential aspect of like looking at motivation, that lens. On the other end,
wow, that's a very profound statement. I never really thought about that in that lens. Yeah, like what is it that drives you? You know, that's a good. Yeah. All right. So the second point.
The second thing I was going to say is that I think what's more powerful than motivation is, well, one, establishing a habit, right? But two, really building your identity around certain things. So not just like, hey, I feel like doing this today, but like, who Mylan is a person who goes to the gym 5 days a week, no matter what. And just really, really building who you are around that and ingraining it as a part of your identity. Obviously, things become a little tough once you stop doing that because then you start having this identity crisis. But I do believe that for me, I was going to the gym after a while, and then I thought about, well, one, it was the ability to picture a long-term goal, right? So it was really, really having that. Hey, if I continue to work out, I have this. So I was always able to see that. And, you know, they do a lot of studies like that where like once, you know, they have people race, if one person can see the finish line versus the other person can't, that person is faster, they're able to go longer, they're able to do things. So us actually having a finish line in mind is huge in terms of being able to accomplish a goal. And even if you create little arbitrary finish lines, you know, it's better than nothing. So I think that's really, really huge. Beyond that is, I think that identity aspect of it being like, this is who I am. I'm the type of person who goes to the gym 5 days a week, no matter what. And at that point in time, when you mess up, you risk an identity crisis, but that's also, you're entering an identity crisis if you don't do something, and you're going to want to do whatever you can to avoid that. And from what I've just heard individuals say is identity drives behavior. And so if you can tie something to like, hey, this is the type of person I am, you'll do it. And I believe in that because, you know, I do that like dry January thing, and I've been doing it for a long, long time. And honestly, at this point in time, I probably have the least motivation and will I've ever had, or like had in the last 5-6 years. The only thing that drives me is I'm like, dude, I always do this every single year. This is who I am. So I have to do this no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about that?
Yeah, no, I'm thinking about this idea of identity, and like I was thinking about that today. I was like, I actually only have one habit, and that's brushing my teeth in the morning. There is literally nothing else that I do on a consistent enough basis where I do it every day. Actually, that's a lie. Recently, and for the last few, maybe 2-3 years, I drink a phenomenal amount of water. So
that's fantastic.
Yeah, I actually think I drink a really good amount of water, and I brush my teeth. But like outside of those two, it's like, I guess I don't even really have an identity like that. Like what you're talking about, like a very like clear cut, this is who I am. I don't have a single personality trait where I'm like, this is what Gautam is. And so maybe quick tangent. Do you feel like maybe that's the strategy to approach life, like to create a strong, like, this is who I am, as opposed to being like, I'm whatever my environment needs me to be at this moment?
I mean, I think if you want consistency in your identity and your behaviors, you kind of have to, or else you're just constantly going to be, you know, moving with the things around you. And
that's true.
It's more about what you want. You know, I think, you know, being like water and just molding to everything around you can be useful for certain goals. And I think being somebody who says who they are and becomes a force within any environment that they're in also can be helpful for certain types of goals. I feel like I used to be very much like that. Like I was like, I get out of bed in 10 minutes or less. I meditate every single day. I read every day, and I do yoga every day. That's literally who Mylan is. And that's a bit reductive to say I am 4 habits.
Yeah.
But I also think that, you know, what I learned in this thing is it's not even so much about how well you do that thing. I heard this thing, I don't know how true it is, but that like lions fail on like over like 80% of their hunts. Let's say it's even 50, right? Because that's pretty fucking crazy. The lion is still the king of the jungle, despite them failing on over 50% of their hunts. And that's because that's who the lion asserts itself to be. And so it's not even about, I guess, whether or not you actually, I mean, it should be to some extent about whether or not you actually do that. But I think it's just more about creating those things around who you are and how you want Gautam to be perceived. And so I used to be a lot better with that. Not so much now, but I do think it's helpful.
So I guess maybe is this the strategy then? Okay, to like envision or draw out what it is that your goals even are. Like this is what I want to even do with my life. And then once you have that kind of kind of drawn out, then you can be like, all right, these are the habits and lifestyles that I need to implement to get there. And then you can like, it's like, I think I'm just so like clueless in the whole picture. Like I'm like I don't really even know what I really want. I don't actually know how I'm gonna get there because I don't know what I want, and then I'm not really motivated because I'm not chasing anything really. So I'm just like kind of like in this like on parts of that kind of just in the void, you know, just like I don't know what I'm doing. And so I'm kind of curious to hear what you have to say. What does your vision look like for yourself, like in the future? Like, do you
I
have
don't think
one?
I have. I don't have like a vision of. I mean, I have some visions of who I am, but I don't think it's like well fleshed out. I could say, oh, I vision myself as a successful clinical psychologist who runs his own
Hey, okay.
practice.
Hey,
And
I've never heard you say that though. No, actually, that's lit. That's good to hear. Do
I
you see
mean, I will
yourself? You
be.
see yourself in like in like a UCSD, Harvard, or something in one of those offices?
No, I don't really want to do academia. I don't think so.
Okay,
I think I'd probably just want to have like my own practice and like a really cool modernized practice.
cool.
Like I'm coming in like
In a big
days and I'm like, what's
city,
up? Maybe honestly, also living in like the countryside would be sick.
and
But
you
I don't
meet
know if
with
that would have a lot of
people. You
different
meet
things.
with organizations.
Animals. Yeah,
You're like, I meet with dogs.
only chinchillas. I have a chinchilla practice only. Yeah, no, yeah. But I mean, aside from all that, because that's like for me really illustrious. I think what I see for myself more than anything is like somebody who's like not somebody who can like this is one thing I always picture for myself. I'm just like this is like what I want for myself. I always had this vision of myself at a dinner table with like my friends, and I'm actually like present with all them. Like I'm like watching everyone laughing, and I'm like, oh, I'm like here with them, and I'm enjoying this. I'm not thinking about what I have to do tomorrow. I'm not thinking about my anxiety about whether or not I'm being funny or whether or not I'm being interesting. The only thing I'm thinking about is me being in that moment. And so sometimes a lot of my goals I feel like are just kind of structured around that literal vision. And
Mm,
so sometimes I'm like, one thing I know that I will always have incorporated in who I am is meditation. For me, it's like that's the only way to really, that's the biggest way I've seen to be present and reduce anxiety. So I don't know how important it is to like have like a whole, you know, identity structured in the future. I feel like that's really, really hard for like every little thing you want to do. I feel like maybe just taking it one step at a time with like, okay, like what is important for Gotham? Well, what's important for Gotham is like um always
honestly, I
being
don't know. I don't know how much of what is important to me is just how working on that makes me feel, and how much of it is actually the thing itself. You know, and you were saying something, and I was thinking about that. I was like, I think a lot of my future is surrounded around chasing feelings as opposed to like actual like things. You know, it's
mm,
like what you just said right now too. That sounds more of a feeling than it is like an actual like thing. You know.
right.
Um,
And to you, does that seem less valid than an actual thing?
no, I just think that it's not less valid. I just think it's a super moving target. The feeling can be experienced like anywhere, you know? Which I guess
Mm,
then the question is like how do you build yourself into a person that feels that feeling more? Which I guess is a pretty cool like I guess that also works as a way of
I
thinking
mean,
like
ideally, like if you're the type of person who like closes the door in your room and you like hate yourself and you can like build your life around being able to be alone with yourself and feel good about yourself. I think that's to me a better goal than chasing making 170K a year
yeah.
and feeling
But
like shit about yourself.
I think the thing like that people say, and I've felt this in times that I have been really driven. It's like I'm very well aware that it's not the goal that brings anything, but it's like really that chase that like is
Mm-hmm.
so makes life so exciting. You know,
Mm,
it's like I feel like when I wake up with like a problem to solve, and I'm like, all right, I'm working with the team, and we got 2 weeks to get this done. I know what I'm
mm,
doing today, and it's like I really feel motivated in those moments. You know, whatever the
mm.
goal is to accomplish. But I know it's not like the actual accomplishment of the goal that's like satisfying. You know, so
Well, there you
I
go.
guess that's a question.
You have a feeling, you enjoy the feeling of having some type of goal to accomplish, and sounds like having some kind of collaborative element to it. And so like maybe building habits around that, right? Like how can I have collaborative goals that like I always accomplish with some type of team,
Mm, yeah,
right?
damn, yeah. But it's just annoying because it's like all of this is like in theory. Once you start doing it, it's not. You know, it's like so annoying. I just know like I love creating. You know, there's actually I think there's only one thing that really I think it's just talking. Like that's actually the only thing I really
Mm-hmm.
really enjoy doing. So I want to figure out
Mm-hmm.
some way to like do that. You know, just like
Mm-hmm.
just just yeah, that would be nice. But
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because I feel like the problem with chasing things and maybe even feelings as well is like, yeah, a lot of times like you get in the process and like you don't really appreciate it,
yeah.
or you like relieve whatever it is that you had, and then you're just kind of stuck on another problem, which I feel like is another reason to incorporate a practice, right? Like gratitude or something like that. Like
Mm,
I feel like really looking at these things, because it's so easy to really fall out of touch with the things that you can have everything you wanted, and that you can at one point in time wish you had five things, and you're like, I only want these five things and I'll be happy. And then you get those five things and you're like, I'm still not happy. And at some point in time of doing that in your life, constant, you have to ask yourself, like, does it really have to do with anything at this point in time other than just how I feel about these
me.
things?
Yeah. 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 Yeah, I've been having a hard time where like I haven't been finding anything worthwhile, like just like to put my time into. Like I'll feel it when I'm motivated for those 2 days, and then on the third day I'm like, do I really even care about this? Like, you know, like, and it's just so it's a I think a tiring kind of like cycle.
What do you think? Like, what do you think are some things that are helpful when someone feels stuck in that way? Like, I feel like right now, well, from what it sounds like in your life, you're kind of feeling that from time to time. And right now, even in my life, I feel like I'm kind of having. I described to one of my friends yesterday that I feel like I'm eating stale bread. Like it feels like I'm just eating something past its expiration date. Like, and I'm just kind of
Damn.
consistently doing this because I'm like, I would rather eat this and be sick than be starving. But like you eating that consistently is actually killing you as much as starving is. And so
Mm.
how do you actually change? How do you actually what like when you do feel stuck like that? What are some things you think are helpful?
This, honestly, this. Like,
Mm,
I feel like literally what pulls me out is like a good conversation just about
mm,
life. And then it just snaps me back into, okay, like I'm ready to go take on the day. You
mm,
know, like I feel like,
mm,
I had the conversation with a friend today and it was just like we were talking about maybe using Discord to like have a group of people who are all interested in starting a habit and stopping a few habits and like getting
mm,
on the call maybe like 2 or 3 times a week, and then everyone's
mm,
like have their video on but they're like on mute, and then like in that 1 hour they're like, even though the other days you can work on your habit, but in that 1 hour you're going to be working on the habit with each other, but it's going to be
mm.
silent, but it'll just be nice to see that. And then maybe one day a week for 20 minutes actually like share your experiences, what you learned that week from doing your habit, maybe what you learned from not doing the one habit. It just like I feel like a community would be huge for me, especially like just this conversation for example, just I feel like is preparing me for tomorrow to like to go take it on to the full best of my ability.
Dude, I feel like if that actually became a thing just between like a few people and that became consistent, I feel like by the end of the year, having 100 people doing that wouldn't even be kind of a question, because these issues that we're struggling with, I think every fucking person struggles with. And
Yes.
there's a reason like things like AA or having a personal trainer or having any of these things, having an accountability partner, like seems to be one of the like most powerful elements in building a habit or stopping a habit.
Mm. So I
Because I
guess
feel like
in
as
that's what
humans,
the focus is. How do we
mhm,
build that accountability kind of into our lives?
mhm.
Right? Would you agree?
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's huge, and it's a lot easier sometimes to be motivated for another person than it is for ourselves.
Yeah, I think that is where that becomes a slippery slope, where it's like you are incapable of motivating yourself. But maybe it's like not even possible. I don't know. Is it like it is? I don't know. I mean, you look at David Goggins. I'm pretty sure he's self motivated, but I don't know.
I mean,
Is he?
dude, I feel like it's a hard balance between trying to be entirely self-sufficient and being realistic with yourself out of your weak points. Like that's a really, really hard balance. Like I feel like you and I both, I think, want to just become this like entirely like, I don't need any other person ever type of person. Out of mostly fear that one day we won't have another person there. But I don't know how like realistic or like ideal that is.
Never. I will do it all alone.
I was going to say in relation to one last thing to say in relation to identity and motivation is a lot of these people that we look to who are like really great have built alternative identities to become this person. Like you hear David Goggins say, he's like, yeah, David's like kind of a bitch, but Goggins, he gets that shit done. Or like Beyonce has like Sasha Fierce. Like a lot of these people that we look into, they actually literally create alternative egos such that they can associate those behaviors with that identity.
Damn.
It's kind of fucking crazy, but yeah.
What would your alter ego name be?
Dude, I've thought about this so much. I have no fucking clue. Batman, I don't know. Like, I tried. I've literally tried. I can't think of anything cool. I don't know. Fucking Sonder. I don't know.
Yeah,
Sonder just seems like more of a simp than me, though.
Yeah, I mean, I'm even
maybe like, I'll be the alternative identity. And Sonder will be who I am most of the time.
Damn. No, I mean, I'm just thinking, I'm like, what would my alter identity even, what would your alter identity's character, how would that person be different than you? I guess that in itself is asking the question of like, who is that future version of you going to be, kind of,
And what do you need?
Yeah.
What do you want?
Which is the main question of everything. It's like, what the fuck do we want? Like, what do we want
so tell me
with our
three characteristics that alternative identity would have.
I want to be, something that I have always found to be extremely therapeutic in my life always has been picking up trash. And like, that's something I want to just like, things like actions like that. I want to incorporate, I want this person to be someone who wakes up early to do actions like that. So like pick up trash, like, give socks to all the homeless people in there, but something like just something where I'm like, I'm doing something that I'm not posting or sharing or anything, but I feel like I'm cleaning up my community a little bit, and I feel very like cleaned. I feel like I don't have enough cleaning practices like that in my own like soul, Even cleaning your own house is a good like that. I don't clean my room and stuff enough. Like I feel like I need to incorporate more cleaning. I'm gonna write that down actually. Yeah, like I need more cleaning habits in my life. So that's one. I want to be someone who's like, I'm like pretty happy in many of the other ways that I am, like honestly, like there's very few things that I really want to change right now. And like, I've always been on this no masturbation thing, but that's like more than that specific thing. What I'm realizing now is I don't want to be weak in terms of like, I don't want my brain to have control over what action I take on a day-to-day basis. That's actually what it is, like if I want to be like, I'm getting in that cold shower, I want to just get in. Like, I don't want to be like a wimp,
Right.
Like that's like really like that's like what I think the actual thing is.
It's well said.
But yeah, so I don't know, but I guess that's the whole problem. I don't know, but yeah, what about you?
I mean, two, which is pretty good. I think one that you said I really, really feel is having my actions be tied to what I say I'm going to do. So instead of my feelings, right? So if I say I'm going to take that cold shower, I'm in that cold shower no matter what. Yeah. If I say I'm going to work out 7 days this week, I'm working out 7 days this week, not based on anything else other than the fact that I just said I'm going to do it. The integrity between my words and my actions is unbreakable. Yes. And not only because to know yourself as that, once that becomes your identity, like you're kind of unstoppable. And then you become that for the people around you. Like people like can rely on you. They're like, oh, Galton said he's going to do that. He's going to fucking do that. Like that's who he is. And that's maybe like one of the best feelings I feel like you can have is like people who actually to know yourself and for other people to know that your word is bond. That's huge. I feel like, honestly, I used to think that I wanted my alternative identity there's not alter ego. That's what it's fucking is. Alter ego to be harder than I am. You know, I wanted them to be stronger and more savage and more whatever. But I honestly think I'm really looking at myself nowadays, and I just think I probably would need someone who's softer, someone who's more gentle with other people, someone who's more empathetic, someone who doesn't believe that they're superior to the people around them, somebody who is in touch with his feelings and the feelings of people around him, someone who genuinely actually wants to help other people and cares about other people's suffering, and is in tune with others around him instead of his own, caught up in his own main character story. And I feel like if I could have somebody or turn into somebody who actually cared in that way, didn't need to have his armor on all the time, I think I'd like that a lot, to be honest.
Mm. And so what are some, to maybe to put a nice little bow on this conversation, what do you think is something we can do in this next week to start developing that, building that person?
That's always where the things get difficult. The actionables. Okay, well, we set a lot of different goals, so I think ideally we just have to pick one, right? So one of your goals was someone who, there's the word to action, and then there was the
I think I have one in my mind right now.
Okay.
Like, what I want to do is, and this is I know when I have good days. I have a good day when I get in that shower, as soon as I get up, brush my teeth, grab my bag, and get the fuck out of my house. Like, that every day I do that, I have a phenomenal day, because then I'm out in the world. It's an adventure. I'm meeting cool people. I'm exploring. I'm having good food. I'm working. So what I need to do is minimize the amount of time in the morning that I'm at home. So if I can
wake up and set a timer.
Yeah. So what I realized is going to be helpful for me is to pack my bag, get my clothes, to minimize the amount of things I have to think about in the morning. Because what always stresses me out is I get up, then I have to find a coffee shop I want to go to, then I open my laptop, and then it's a world of despair. If the laptop is open in the morning when I'm laying on my bed, it's a wrap. So if I can the previous night figure out the coffee shop I'm going to, just all the thinking process for in the morning, just do it the previous night. I think that way I can just get up and get out of the house as soon as possible. And so that I know is actually something that will really benefit my life. So I just have to do it now. That's the next next thing, just do it. I know that those habits will. What about you?
Shit. I don't know, man. I really don't know. I bet that's kind of where I'm stuck at right now, is having actionable things. I feel like
you've been meditating.
These last 2 days been doing a better job with that. I think that's always something that's super helpful. I think something I can do, honestly, something I've been thinking about a lot is just talking less. I've been noticing that I really believe what I have to say is more important than other people when I talk to them. And I don't care to actually listen to them. When they're talking, I start tuning out, and I've never had that to the extent which I have it now. And it's because I don't think I actually care to hear what anybody's saying. And so I think that literally just talking less in conversations will be something that could help in that. And then just really listening and asking people more questions. So that's something I can think of off top. I don't know how someone develops more empathy and more gentleness, and maybe just stop saying asshole-ish things. I don't know. I think for me right now, I have a goal of meditating every day, and maybe my goal would just be figuring out some more goals. I don't fucking know.
Yeah, I mean, that's always a start. Of goals for you? No, I have no idea.
Give me some goals, dog. Tell me
that's literally life, that's honestly the one thing I feel like you should never ever do to another human being. Honestly, I feel like even as a parent, you should never tell your kids what goals they should have. That's literally I feel like that's so awful. That's the one thing you shouldn't intervene in someone else's life, It's these goals will be better than what you, the only thing I feel like as a parent, and just this is random, but the only thing as a parent I feel like you should really push on your kids is their ability to work hard and have discipline. Like apart from that,
Mm,
how they choose to use those superpowers, they can do however they want. But I feel like those are good
mm,
things to just like have on your tool belt, like toolkit. Like I want to accomplish that, I know exactly how to do it. Bop, like
mm, mm.
But
Yeah.
yeah. So I would never tell you what goals you should have. Like,
How a goal? I mean, I guess I've already said my goals. I guess like actions to get to those goals, right? But I mean, I think that's one of my biggest problems as well too. Is I always want people to tell me how to like live my life. Like I'm always like, what do I do? And I think because of that, I'm pretty like incapable of having like solutions like 90% of the time. So I'm always just like, what do you think? So maybe not doing that. Maybe that's a good one. Just actually having like my own thoughts and opinions about how to go about doing things. But yeah, yeah, man, this is a good. What's the title of this one? You got it.
No, I
You got it up here.
a little, to think a little
Motivation and creation. Hey.
Oh.
No, we really talk about creation. Motivation and goal creation. Hey. Hold on now.
Yeah, I would, on that thing
Motivation and masturbation.
No, no, we're not throwing that back in again. I'm over it, bro. Honestly, I'm so over it. This is such a stupid thing to be spending this much of my life thinking and talking about. And Jesus, bro, like, I got other stuff to be doing. What am I doing?
It's all good, bro. I'm an alcoholic. Like, don't trip. Like, we're
bro,
not all fucking.
It's just too long. I've been on this for too long. Like, I'm just like, I'm tired now. It's like, it's not even enjoyable anymore. Like, I honestly have so much just repressed sexual trauma that I'm like, I need to deal with it. Like, actually is what I'm learning now. Like, I just have so much sexual trauma from years of just weird things going on. I'm like, I need to deal with it, And
Have you heard about EMDR?
No.
It's like eye movement eye movement desensitization rapid something therapy. Jesus, I never hired me as a clinical psychologist. But yeah, it's a PTSD focused treatment, and it works with like your eyes moving laterally, and that somehow like puts you in like a parasympathetic nervous system, and you're able to like access your trauma, and then you kind of do some techniques. But it's supposed to be really, really good for like targeting specific traumatic memories and kind of removing the like emotional charge that they have on them. And I actually know a friend who did it, Karan, and he really, really liked it. He was able to like process a lot of traumatic memories that he was never able to deal with. And it wasn't like too expensive. I think it was like $70 a session or something like that, or like $100 a session or something like that. So maybe looking into that could be worth it.
No, I mean, I signed up for therapy again when I get back to DC, so I'm excited for that. But yeah, well, good talk. I'm glad we were able to bang this one out.
And don't forget to glue thumbtacks to your hands.
All right, love you, brother. Thank you for listening. We'll catch y'all in another 6 months.